Hello, everybody, and welcome again to Nerd to the Third Power, your one-stop shop for all things nerdy and awesome. I'm your host and master of ceremonies, Dr. Gonzo. With me, as always, in this epic quest of awesomeness is our resident anime goddess, the Cat. Cat, how you doing?
I'm desperate need of a new job, but otherwise I'm fantastic.
Okay.
Sorry, I've just described everyone here, but nevertheless.
Well, I'm halfway to a new job, so, but we're all kind of there, I guess. All right, and in our other co-pod chair is our resident English person, Skyblaze. Skyblaze, how you doing?
I'm not bad. How are you?
Doing all right. And in our correspondence corner, we have Brian and John. How are you guys doing?
I have a bed again. I'm able to sleep. That's not on the floor.
Does that mean Grumpy Brian goes away?
Never.
I'm not sure I've met any other Brian.
I miss Happy Brian. He was fun and lovable, like the big brother I never had or wanted.
I'm not sure
or had
who
hidden
it is
under
you
my
think.
floorboards.
I'm not sure who it is you think you've met.
So we got a fun show for you tonight. Go, John. You need to have your intro. Sorry, go ahead. Didn't mean to just completely ignore your
gee
existence.
willikers, I see how I stand in the grand theme
Well,
of things.
you know, you've been gone for so long, we just assumed that you disappeared.
But he was on like the last 3 shows.
It's okay. I know I'm not right. But actually, I'm doing quite well, thank you for asking. I'm just sitting here. I have a dead bat on the desk next to me. This is not
And
related to me
were
doing well.
anyone else who said that to me, I would be shocked and terrified, but for you, that's just another day at the office.
It was a gift from my sister.
Is that-
she got
is
it
that
while
your-
she
is
was
that
on
your-
vacation.
Oh, is that your dinner for tonight?
No,
No, they don't eat their own kind.
She actually said to me, she said, you know, I got it for you, and then I thought, I hope he's not offended by this, and I said, it's okay, it's not anyone I know.
Okay. All right. We got a lot of show tonight. Tonight we are discussing scientific accuracy versus storytelling. When does getting the facts right impact the enjoyment of the story? So, but of course, there is procedure to follow, so we are going to start, as always, with Ask a Geek. And at this point, I want everybody to put on the helmets that I have provided for you underneath your chairs, because I'm about to lose my mind with our question tonight.
All right, I'm just going to go to the kitchen for a while. I'll be back.
Yeah, I'm gonna just go get a drink. You do your thing.
Going to my happy place.
The pain glove?
Yes.
Anyway, this question comes from Tom, no relation to our tech guy. And he asks, Gonzo, what are your thoughts about the Arkham Knight debacle?
You are so gonna regret
dear
asking
God.
this.
But hang on, let me just put on my flame-proof pants.
Closing the lid of the pain glove.
Alright, just gonna take a few steps back for safety's sake.
As I pause for a moment so the rest of my coworkers can be assholes.
We aim to please.
Here's the thing. I get that developing for PCs is a little tougher than it is developing for consoles. You don't know exactly what combination of hardware every single person is going to have in their machine. There's always a chance that someone may have, a combination of processor, RAM, and graphics card that for some reasons like oil and water to this game. I get that. I get that it's tough. And I get that, PC gamers aren't really the largest facet of the gaming market, that, the lion's share of sales comes from consoles, and so that's where you want to focus the lion's share of your attention. I get that. Okay? But to put out such a blatantly and unrepentantly lazy port as what has happened with Arkham Knight, to the point where only people whose machines are shards of the all-knowing monolith that has guided mankind through evolution since time immemorial, when the only people who can get your game to even be playable are the rich asshole people who have like the $3,000 machines that they can render every single pore on Commander Shepard's face. When you have to have that kind of a machine to just get the game playable, You realize those people are like 1 in 100, right? You realize most people don't have systems that powerful, right? You pretty much put out a game that people with anything less than a mechanical god in their living rooms can't even get to run. And the thing that infuriates me the most about this, Warner Brothers, is that this isn't the first time you've done this. I mean, earlier, you've been dropping the ball so many times on PC ports in the last several years. I mean, shit, earlier this year, Mortal Kombat X, you couldn't even release the damn thing properly. And even then, not the first time this has happened. The same fucking thing happened with Mortal Kombat 9 and Arkham Origins. And the company that you got to do the port for Arkham Origins pretty much said, no, fuck off. We've got your money. We're not going to fix this. How fucking contemptuous.
That's not accurate. The guys who did the port said, we have a patch ready. And Warner Brothers said, we're not going to release it.
Oh,
because
even
we're not going
worse.
to get any money out of it.
Even worse. So it's not even the people that you've outsourced it to. You yourselves are so contemptuous of your customers that you weren't willing to put this out. I can't understand. It's like, okay, maybe Mortal Kombat 9 was a fluke. Okay, maybe there was some business decision that went on with Arkham Origins that you couldn't put this out. I don't know. But the fact that this keeps happening, I expect this kind of shit from EA. At least they're honest about being pure evil. I mean, and even then, we don't get a new Sim City every fucking year. But it's like, I don't understand how you could continue to be so fucking lazy about this. Actually, no, I know exactly why you think you can get away with this. It's because PC gamers, by and large, have no real recourse about getting their money back on a faulty product. Most of the sales are through digital services like Steam or GOG or Green Man that have, up to this point, no refund policies. So you've been able to go, oh, well, we've got your money now. Fuck off. We're not doing anything. But you know what? Now that's changing. Okay? Steam's got their refund policies now. You're not going to be able to get away with these lazy-ass ports anymore. Okay? I guarantee you're going to see, well, to my knowledge, I think GOG has always had a refund policy of some kind, so somebody could sound off in the comments and let me know.
It has.
Oh, it has? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that explains why so few AAA titles find their way over there. But Steam's got a refund policy now. You're probably going to see Green Man Gaming get a refund policy. I'd be very surprised if Uplay didn't get one. I'd be surprised if Origin actually got one because, again, EA, pure devil. But this shit's got to stop, okay? Yeah, we're not the largest segment of the gaming market, but we're still, when I say we, I mean PC gamers. They may not be the largest segment of the gaming market, but we're still a sizable chunk of your income. We're also the ones who are probably going to be the quickest to call you out on your shit. We shouldn't have to fix your mistakes. We shouldn't have to wait for a mod to come out or a fan-made patch to come out to fix your mistakes. Okay? I get that it's tough to port for PCs versus consoles. With a console, everybody's got the exact same PS4, everyone's got the exact same Xbox One. Okay, you might have to fudge the numbers a little bit on a PC port. I get that. But at least put some goddamn fucking effort in. I mean, like I said, I have never seen a company shit the bed so badly on this. I have not seen a prolapsed asshole this badly outside of the Hot Kinky Joe video. And if you don't know what I'm referencing, you are all the more blessed for your ignorance. This shit's unacceptable. And it's gotta fucking stop.
Take a deep breath. Find
Now,
your happy
Are you
place.
feeling better? Are you feeling better now?
Now, I will say, as I leave my pit of darkness and travel to the land of hope and happiness and say that I have hope for the future. Like I said, now that Steam is offering a refund service, and you're probably going to see other services follow suit, we are probably going to see a lot less of this in the future, because now it's not a case of we have your money, fuck off. We're able to, PC gamers are going to have some kind of recourse to get their money back and express their disappointment in a way that will actually impact the financial bottom line of developers and publishers. And I would be very surprised if, like I said, if Green Man didn't institute a refund policy or Uplay or maybe even Origins. I'd also be very surprised if you didn't see something like that creep into the console market, like on the PlayStation Network or Xbox Live, which, to my knowledge, have never offered refunds of any kind. So, now that there is a measure of accountability in PC sales, we're probably going to see developers and publishers put a lot more effort into their PC ports, so we're probably going to see an upswing, if not the near future, at least further on down the line. And for God's sake, stop trying to compete with consoles! We're a different market! Stop treating us like we're not! Okay, alright. Happy place. Happy place. Happy place.
As a PSA, while we're waiting for Gonzo to calm down, if you have purchased the new Batman video game for the PC, you are available to bring it to any retailer that you've purchased it from and get a refund. They have actually instructed all retailers to destroy the copies that they have, and all the retailers are being kind of compensated on the back end. So even if you have opened the game, which normally you wouldn't be allowed to return, you'd have to trade in or something, you're still allowed to actually get a full refund.
And you know what? I'll give credit where credit is due. That at least tells me that Warner Brothers is waking up to the fact that they can't get away with this kind of shit.
Well, frankly, it's a PR disaster for them, because it's literally only thing that anybody's talking about the game. The game could be the next coming of Jesus Christ on consoles, and it wouldn't matter, because all anybody's talking about is how terrible it is on PC.
Well, according to Brian's Let's Plays, it is.
According to all the Let's Plays, it is. It's funny, too, because I'm not a gamer, but I work in electronics retail, and we were asked to pull all of our copies of them and hold them for a send back, and then within a couple hours we were told, no, you have to destroy all of them. That's how bad this game is. They're not even going to want any of the packaging back to reuse. They're just like, fuck it, no. Just destroy it.
And, you know, I joked in a previous episode that Steam's refund policy was because of hatred. I think it actually got spurned on by the disaster that was the Mortal Kombat X release. So, what does that fucking tell you, Warner Brothers? That your biggest your PC retailer has preemptively instituted a refund policy because of your shit.
It isn't just that, though. There's been an awful lot of people requesting that. It's been like their most requested feature for a long, long time now.
You were the straw that broke the camel's back, Warner Brothers. How does that feel?
Could well be.
So, but anyway, let's do one more question, a happier question, a question for everyone, so that I don't hog the whole segment here. So let's see here. Okay, here's a couple from Bima, who can always be depended upon with good questions. First one he has is for Brian. What were some of your favorite Dusty Rhodes promos and matches?
Oh, there's always Hard Time promo. And the Hard Time promo is when he was chasing Ric Flair for the World Heavyweight Championship. Because the whole idea of the American Dream Dusty Rhodes is he was sort of the low-ender, the son of a plumber and all that kind of stuff. So whenever he had these great promos talking about hard times and how Ric Flair put him into hard times, but he's going to cram back up and get out of there and then take that world title. It was just a great promo from start to finish. His best match, at least I think one of his best matches, might have been, I want to say, he was involved in one of the first War Games matches where you have two rings next to each other and it's covered by a cage. When he was facing off against the Four Horsemen, which is Ric Flair's group. Oh no, I take that back. I think one of the best matches was a steel cage match where he lost, but the loss was so powerful because Ric Flair and the Four Horsemen, cheated to win, that a riot broke out in the arena and people were actually at the cage doors preventing the wrestlers from leaving. Like, at that point, he's usually like, you've got something hot when the crowd acts like that. They're like, we're going to get these bad guys for you, Dusty. And Dusty's like, oh, dear. Hope they get out okay.
Okay. All right, and his second question, it's addressed to John, but I'm going to open up to Skyblaze as well, and, well, anybody else who wants to contribute. What were some of your favorite Christopher Lee movies and moments?
Oh, man.
Oh, man.
Well, The Wicker Man.
Yeah.
Which is one of the most unsettling horror thrillers ever. It's a superb film, and if you've never seen the original Wicker Man, please, for the love of God, do yourself a favor and go and watch it, because it's amazing.
Absolutely. I believe for years Christopher Lee actually said he considered that his best role. As Lord Summerisle.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, it's such a good movie. If you
And
only know it through the horrible Nicolas Cage remake, then you do not know it at all.
Yeah, you owe it to yourself to see the original, because the ending is one of the most incredible endings of anything ever, and it's so kind of tense and unsettling throughout the entire thing, and it gets to the end and you're like, because if you don't know the plot, you're like, what the hell's going on? Then you get to the end and it's so shocking and kind of, oh my God, they're not really gonna. Yes, they are. So yeah, that one I'd definitely say is worth it.
It's a really, really great movie. Obviously, I'm going to talk about the Dracula movies a little bit. Horror of Dracula, as it's called in the United States, or if you have seen it in England, where it's just called Dracula.
Yep.
That is probably the best of the Dracula cycle of movies. Some of the later ones are not quite so great. Lee himself used to complain that he got fewer and fewer lines in each successive movie.
It was only there because he was being blackmailed into the part, essentially.
Well,
And
blackmailed
yet
and emotionally guilted.
Yeah.
And yet, such was his skill as an actor that he could rock ass at the role and not say a word.
Oh, absolutely. Another fun one that I just watched recently is a movie called Horror Express.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've seen it. This is a movie from the 70s. It shows very, very much that's from the 70s. It has a very 70s vibe to it. Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing, of course, as the stars. And it's essentially... I don't want to give away too much about the plot. It has to do with a missing link being transported on a train across Russia. And it's supposed to be dead, and it's not quite as dead as they think it is. And from there, the movie just goes completely bonkers.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I mean, like, Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing have all the seriousness and gravitas that you expect from them as actors, but everything that's happening around them in this movie is just nuts. It's, I didn't expect it to be quite as, well, I nearly said off the rails, and then I remembered it was a movie about a train. I didn't expect it to be quite as loony as it was. Yeah, I stopped myself that time. No pain glove for me. But, I didn't expect it to be quite as loony as it was, but it was, and it's fun, and, oh, God, everyone should see it. It's so great.
Okay.
Also,
was on TV
the
last
Sherlock
year.
Holmes TV movies that he did with
Yes.
Patrick McNee.
Yes.
He died a few days ago.
Oh, no, really?
Yeah,
People, stop dying.
I know. It's kind of hurting my heart. Also, The Last Unicorn, where he was King
Yes.
Haggard, and him as Death in a bunch of various different Discworld things.
And reality. No one's going to convince me otherwise.
A bunch of people think that he's taken the job. You know, Death showed up as like, I'm thinking of retiring, and the job's yours. It's like, oh yeah, okay.
I can dig it.
Headcanon accepted.
Alrighty. Okay, well, that's all the Ask the Geek questions that we have for this week. As always, you can send them to us through the email at billysmith@channelawesome.com. And who knows, maybe we'll read your question out on the air, and who knows, you might inspire another fit of paroxysms in me. Please don't. I try and avoid the heavy rants where I can. They're not that good for my heart. My doctor has suggested that I stop.
We only keep so many tranquilizer darts in stock in the studio, okay?
And that shit's habit forming!
Well, while Gonzo is sort of still frothing at the mouth, this is a perfect opportunity to kind of sneak in our headlines. I'll start off with the Multiverse headlines. Looks like we're finally getting an idea of what the Marvel Universe are going to look like after Secret Wars when they have their little... We don't want to... It's not a reboot. Is it a relaunch? Is it a retool? Whatever they want to call it. To figure it out. They started to release what all the new books, well, not all of them, but most of the new books are going to be looking like, and who's going to be starring and writing and drawing them as the time comes forward. You have things like A-Force, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the all-new All Different Avengers, an all-new Hawkeye, an all-new Wolverine, which is actually going to be X-23, all-new X-Men, which is still the past X-Men in the future. That's giving me a headache. An amazing Spider-Man with Peter Parker alongside of Spider-Man with Miles Morales. A new Angelina book, because, I don't know. Ant-Man book, Captain Marvel is going to be coming back. Unfortunately, sadly, Ku DeConnick will not be returning as the writer. A new Carnage series, a Contest of Champions, which is actually a video game-based book. A new Daredevil, of course. A new Deadpool, so Gonzo will be happy. A new Doctor Strange. A Drax. Extraordinary X-Men. There's still no word about how the X-Men are going to work. I still think they said they're going to be on a different planet. We're not sure. We'll have to wait till after Secret Wars to get that. A new Guardians of the Galaxy book, a Howard the Duck book again, a Howling Commandos of S.H.I.E.L.D. I mentioned before, a series called Illuminati, the Invincible Iron Man, a Karnak, Miss Marvel still coming back, a new Avengers book, another Nova book, Old Man Logan staying after Secret Wars, Sam Wilson, Captain America, the new Captain America series is going to be having that title, a Secret Witch book, a new Silk book, a Spider-Gwen #1 again, and Spider-Man 2099, and also relaunching of Spider-Woman #1, even though her series is not that old yet. A new Squadron Supreme, Star-Lord gets his own series, Thor is coming back, Mighty Thor, this is the female Thor. The Totally Awesome Hulk with a really childish title. Vision will be getting his own series. Ultimates are coming back, but it's not the Ultimates from the Ultimates universe. They're just using the name. Uncanny Avengers will be sticking around. We have the Uncanny Inhumans. Uncanny X-Men will have another book. Venom, Space Knight. So Venom's going to be in space, apparently. Web Warriors, which is sort of the Spider-Verse book. So you have the multiverse of Spider-Men and women. And that's all that we know so far. There's a lot of different books coming out in October, at least we hope in October. Unfortunately, the delays of the later part of the Secret War series is still plaguing almost all of them. Hopefully just check with your local comic book shop to make sure you're still on the list for them in case they do get resolicited. Well, that's all the time I have this week on Nerd to the Third Power, so I'm going to hand things over to you guys again. Is Gonzo alright? Is it? No, still a little bit of foam, so whoever's next, you're up.
Thank you, Brian. Well, without further ado, let's dive into the movie bin and see what we've got this week. Well, unfortunately, we begin today on another somber note, as it is my unhappy responsibility to talk about the passing of another major figure in the movie business. And this one a much more sudden, much more untimely passing than the last one. Composer James Horner, a man whose theatrical scores ran the gamut from Titanic to Avatar to Jumanji and The Pagemaster, has died at the age of 61. His full list of musical credits is extensive, and I know that many, many people will agree with me when I say that his work touched a deep emotional chord for me, and that his music will be greatly missed. Moving on to a somewhat happier note. That sounds a bit doubtful. Moving on to a somewhat happier note, we now know both who will be portraying the newest incarnation of Spider-Man, as well as who will be directing his solo film debut. Well, his solo film debut in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, at least. It's kind of hard to call the third reboot of a franchise since 2002 a debut anymore at this point. The actor will be Tom Holland, and yes, he will be playing the Peter Parker Spider-Man. Sorry, Miles Morales fans, I was kind of pulling for that too. The director will be John Watts, best known for something called Cop Car, which has been making the film festival circuit. So basically, we've got two relatively unknown names then. But hey, being attached to the MCU means they probably won't be unknown for long, and here's hoping this leads to long, successful careers for the both of them. Sadly, things are not looking as rosy over at the DC Cinematic Universe, but let's be honest, when are they ever? As Marvel gains a new director, it appears that DC has lost one, and it's not a small loss either. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's Del Toro time. My personal pet favorite director has been attached to the Justice League Dark Project, a movie about the more mystical and paranormal heroes of the comic pages, since it was first announced. Now, unfortunately, that looks to no longer be the case, and though we don't have any official explanation as to why, My guess is because the man is just inhumanly busy. I mean, seriously, have you seen the list of projects he's working on? Well, of course, it could be either that or the cancellation of Constantine giving DC cold feet about the whole, magic hero thing. Either way, the fate of this project is in limbo, but I'll let you guys know if it escapes back onto the material plane. And that's it for your movie news. Now I turn things over to our resident anime goddess, the cat.
Why, thank you. Voice actor Tatekabe Kazuya passed away June 18th from acute respiratory failure. Tatekabe had roles in older famous series like Yatterman and Legend of the Galactic Heroes, and more recent shows like Fairy Tail and Ghost in the Shell standalone complex. But he was best known for playing Gion in the Doraemon series. He played the series bully from 1979 until 2005 and reprised the role for films and specials. He was 80. Anime director Takizawa Toshifumi also passed away recently on June 22nd from esophageal cancer. He began his career at Tokyo Animation Film and later worked for Shinei Animation and Sunrise, where he was a series director for Dirty Pair and Armored Trooper Votoms. In addition to directing, he was also a prolific storyboard artist for series like New Gigantor, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Black Butler, and several of the Gundam franchises. He was 61. In less depressing news, Funimation Entertainment has entered in a distribution deal with Universal Pictures Home Entertainment. This multi-year agreement will have UPHE manage the DVD and Blu-ray releases of Funimation's licenses. Funny Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer Mike Dubois, who not so coincidentally used to work for UPHE, has stated that the deal will broaden the scale for the distribution business and allow the company to focus more on acquisition, production, digital distribution, and marketing. Which is awesome because Funimation just acquired the North American rights for the live-action Attack on Titan films. There's no exact word yet on what sort of home video release the movies will have, but Funimation has partnered with Toei Corporation to premiere the film at the Egyptian Theater in LA on July 14th, which is actually before the August 1st debut in Japan. Now, yes, there are two films. The second one, Attack on Titan End of the World, comes out in September and will also, again, have some sort of home video release in North America. And because Funimation doesn't seem to care about saving all their good news for Anime Expo this weekend, they've announced 13 new titles that they'll be streaming this summer, including Snow White with the Red Hair, Rampo Kitan Game of Laplace? Laplace? No idea. Gangsta, Seiyu's Life, Bikini Warriors, Prison School, Hatalia the World Twinkle, Aquarion Logos, Sky Wizards Academy, Junjo Romantica 3, Overlord, Castletown Dandelion, and Shimoneta, a boring world where the concept of dirty jokes doesn't exist, because Japanese titles. They'll also continue streaming One Piece, Fairy Tail, Ninja Slayer, Ultimate Otaku Teacher, and The Heroic Legend of Arslan. And there's still 2 more titles that they haven't announced yet for their full summer streaming lineup, and those will probably be announced at AX. And finally, MTV has posted a casting call for an episode of its True Life series. They are currently looking for people who look between the ages of 16 to 26 who have altered their style or appearance, and in some cases permanently, in order to look more anime. They plan to document fans who have or plan to achieve their anime beauty dream. Now, I haven't seen this show, but I can't imagine any scenario in which this doesn't turn into a demeaning spectacle. But if you're interested in that sort of thing, you can email casting at gigantic.tv with your name, location, phone number, and a recent picture. And that's all I've got going on in the anime and manga world. Over to you, Dr. Gonzo.
Alright, we're going to take a quick musical break as I clean up the remains of my desk from my rage. And when we come back, scientific accuracy versus storytelling. Stay tuned, we got a lot of fun stuff. All right, and we are back, and I think it's safe to say that we're all big science fiction nerds here. Star Wars, Star Trek, Jurassic Park. You know, if there's some way that we can combine science and fiction, we will do it, even if it produces an unholy mess, such as, like, let's say, Event Horizon or the Doom movie. Actually, Event Horizon was pretty good, so that...
I was going to say, Event Horizon was amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
although...
what a
Shut
weird
up.
comparison.
Although it's terrifying as fuck, there are no bunnies fluffy enough to offset the horror that is Sam Neill in that movie. So, but anyway, but that in a weird way that brings us to the discussion of this week's show, which is, at what point does scientific accuracy? Yeah, okay, let's try that again.
Accuracy, new word we had just invented.
That is staying in the show.
At what point does scientific accuracy? You know what? That'll be the title of this episode. Scientific accuracy.
Perfect.
At what point does scientific accuracy ruin the or impede the storytelling, or basically, or in other words, at what point do you stop becoming, oh, this would actually do this, and just become douchey McNitpick? So probably the chief, most recent example of this kind of thing that's come out in recent memory was Jurassic World. As we pointed out in our review of the film, there have been numerous scientific paleontological advances that have been made in the last couple of decades that almost negate pretty much all of the imagery that was shown in the original Jurassic Park film. But yet has been kept in Jurassic World. So it's kind of, you know, at what point does scientific realism impede the storytelling? So since Kat's a big dinosaur fan, why don't we start off with your opinion on this kind of thing, on why Jurassic World dinosaurs don't have feathers?
Well, it depends on if you want to go from the real reason or the fake science reason. And the fake science reason that Dr. Wu explains in the film is that they've always had to continuously replace gaps in the DNA sequence with the DNA of other things, and that's why they don't look like they would really look if they had complete DNA strands. So that's sort of the BS reason that they came up with after all this scientific ingenuity proved that, oh, well, look at all these dinosaurs that fucking had feathers. The real reason that the movie doesn't change it is to just keep in line with what the viewers expect based on the other films. And what we expect based on the other films is what we've always known. These scaly creatures that our history textbooks have, well, I guess history textbooks or museums or whatever have you, have always showed us. So that's when we go into Jurassic Park, we expect these big, scaly creatures. And so I don't think it was actually gonna change for Jurassic World, just because they needed to keep the common image in their mind rather than the scientifically accurate one.
And let's be honest, how many of us would take a T-Rex seriously if it had chicken feet? I know I wouldn't. Oh, that
It's also the size of a T-Rex, so I'm not gonna be really like, I'm not gonna take you seriously. Well, I'm gonna step on you. Oh, okay, I'm gonna take you seriously.
I mean, we've seen chickens in, like, Legend of Zelda, right? Now, just imagine that, but really big.
Yeah, I could see if the T-Rex had actually, if the T-Rex in the Lost World had feathers and chicken feet, I could just imagine, like, it getting on the main, like, all right, where's that Colonel Sanders asshole?
God, I'm so hungry now.
But, you know, it sort of, this sort of brings us to the crux of this topic, which is, you know, at what point do we just not care about scientific accuracy being a thing, and we just, you know, is it because is it the reason that we enjoy the reptilian dinosaurs? Is it just because that's all we've known and it's familiar to us, or is it because that's how we see them as being scarier?
Well, I certainly think that in this day and age we would see dinosaurs scarier without feathers, since there aren't many feathered things in modern times that we know of that actually scare us. Whereas lizards and creepy crawly things can still be a little scary. Like snakes are still scary, and like Komodo dragons are kind of scary. So like, yeah, scaly is probably a bit scarier. But I really think it's just what we know. It's what we've always been shown in every monster movie that's ever had a dinosaur, and all the textbooks and all the games and everything that's come before has showed us this. So that's just sort of what we know. And I think if you tried to show it as otherwise, it would just be confusing more than anything else.
So now something that I kind of want to bring up, and I think that Skyblaze will be able to kind of chew on a little bit, is space movies and the fact that they have no fucking sense of scale.
Oh dear God.
And the idea of warp travel, because I recently with my father, who, for those who don't know, he's actually a physics professor and a rocket scientist, watched the movie Interstellar, and I had a very hard time wrapping my head around the physics of that film. And the thing about Interstellar is that it tries very hard to be a scientifically accurate. Yeah.
Accurate.
I'm not living this one down. A scientifically accurate film. But the problem is that they spend so much of this movie setting up these impossible to overcome physics, time dilation, gravity, all that. Then when it comes time for them to actually resolve the film and solve the major conflict, it's like, okay, there's no way that we can still do this and be scientifically accurate, so let's just pull an Arthur C. Clarke and solve it with the power of love. That is literally how they solve the problem in that movie. And I remember sitting there with my dad and looking at his face, and he just had this... When it got to that point, he just had this look on his face like he tasted butt. He was just not happy with how they went from staying very close to how physicists believe space and faster than light travel and black holes actually behave, to love is going to solve everything. And I'm just like, do you think maybe they could have come up with a more believable solution to this film if they hadn't spent so much time setting up the science aspect of it?
I don't know. It's also starring Matthew McConaughey, so... all right. Yeah, that's...
That was the least accurate part about that movie, was trying to make people believe that he knew science.
So, but Skyblaze, as a sci-fi connoisseur, what do you think about this kind of thing?
Scientific accuracy in science fiction is a bit of a two-edged sword, or can be, particularly when you're talking about literary fiction. Hard SF is a recognized genre where it is based on very much kind of sound, known scientific principles and then extrapolating from there. People like Stephen Baxter do this a lot. The trouble with it is that they can spend so much time talking about, no, this totally makes sense because XYZ, blah, 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 that it kind of gets in the way of the story. And, it spends so much time explaining why this marvelous spaceship can work that you kind of run out of book before you get to understand anything about any of the characters. And that does become a problem for some hard SF if they don't know how to balance, but I want to tell you about this wonderful world I've created and I want to tell you a good story.
There's source books for the one and then novels for the other.
That's right.
So now, have you seen Interstellar, just out of curiosity?
I haven't seen all of it. I only saw like the first 10 minutes and got bored.
It was very boring.
It was quite boring.
Yeah, okay.
On the other hand, I do really like some hard SF, and I like some military SF. The Hannah Harrington series by David Webber, which does use scientific principles to explain a lot of its tech, and then kind of explains... the way that this technology has worked means that basically interstellar combat is a lot like naval warfare.
Really slow,
it's
really long.
Well, it starts that way at the very beginning, and then they kind of invent the space-going equivalent of a submarine, and then the space-going equivalent of a carrier. There's kind of this... The way that the weapon parity works keeps changing all the time because they keep inventing new stuff because there's a war going on. So it changes, the dynamics of the fights change a heck of a lot between the start and the end of the current part of the story, which makes it a lot more. Honor Harrington by David Weber. You can find the first 2 books for free on the Bayon Free Library.
Word of warning: if you decide to get into the series, be prepared to commit yourself to a very long set of books.
They are very good, though. I do recommend them.
That's the only reason why I haven't gotten into it, is because I'm currently working through the Horus Heresy series, which is 27 books. It's like, this one's got like 50, and I'm just like, no, I'll probably be dead before I finish that.
To be fair, some of them are short stories, and some of them aren't to do with the main the storyline, if you like. Some of them are kind of prequels or things like that, side stories. But yeah, you have to balance these things, and sometimes you're reading something like some quite old, like what was back in ye olden days hard SF, and like Isaac Asimov used to do this back in the day. And you read it, and then you kind of get to a bit where it's like blah 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 blah, and then this happened, and you're bullshit, because they didn't know any. The science literally didn't exist. Early Star Trek's like this as well. They were trying, for the most part, to keep it relatively based on real-world science. And then they would pull out this kind of like, oh, but it's clearly, this isn't possible because of X, Y, and Z. It's like, yes, it fucking is. We know that now. We didn't back in the 60s. So you can kind of shoot yourself in the foot if you rely too much on what we know about current science and technology versus what is possible with science and technology.
The thing that really kind of irritates me about some science fiction is when I don't mind when they try and meld real world science with their fantasy science that they have come up with, but the problem with that is that it's very easy to suddenly kind of become inconsistent with how the rules work. Like
yeah.
The one, like, the chief example, well, I say not the chief example only because it's the easiest one for me to pick on, but it's actually Doctor Who. We're always being told that, there are fixed points in time, there are things that we cannot change, but if you really stop and take a look at some of the adventures that the Doctor has had, he's altering what ought to be fixed points all over the place. Like, when the most recent example that I can think of, like, when he meets Robin Hood. And I'm just like, okay.
Yeah, but he didn't think he really existed, so... And there's something to be said that, there's the bullshit handwave explanation of he's a Time Lord, he has an innate sense of... Because it's described as kind of some time sensitivity thing, maybe he has an innate sense of when it's possible to change it and when it isn't.
It always seems possible to change it when it's convenient for the story, and it becomes impossible when it's inconvenient for the story. I'm sorry, this is a fixed point. I can't save my friend, but this other time when it's completely bullshit, I can totally change that point in time.
So, and then another one that I kind of like to pick on, or at least that my dad has got me picked on to, because I've started introducing him to the new series, and it takes me back to my least favorite monster, the Weeping Angels. I showed him the first episode, Blink, where the Weeping Angels first appeared, and established, okay, if they touch you, you get sent back in time, and you live up to the point where you got sent back in time, and then you die. And then my dad was like, okay, so wait, the 10th Doctor got sent back in time, but then he's lived another, 250 years past that. Shouldn't he have died after, 40-some years? And I was like, you're right, the Weeping Angels were breaking their own rules at the very first episode.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's kind of taken us off the beaten path.
The ones that do irritate me with this sort of thing is ones where examples where it would be so easy to get it right and they still get it wrong, where it would make no difference to the story whatsoever, but they still get it wrong for some reason. For example, in the Mummy films, the relatively recent ones with what's his face that has the punchable face.
Brendan Fraser.
That's him. See, you all knew who I meant!
Well, we all know who started the Mummy, but yes, we all know a punchable face when we see one.
I find Brendan Fraser's face to be lovable and like the big brother I never had, and that I don't have hidden underneath my floorboards.
You have a lot of weird Big Brother things going on. Do you need to talk to somebody
away
about that?
from that one. Yeah.
Probably.
I recommend
I
therapy.
have issues.
Well,
Yes,
you
we
don't
know.
fucking
We've met
say.
So, the Mummy.
But yeah, it does the flashback bit to ancient Egypt, and it shows right next to Luxor, what was Thebes back in ye olden days, the actual olden days, a pyramid. No. Pyramids were on the west bank of the Nile, because that's where the sun set, that's the land of the dead. Luxor is on the east bank of the Nile.
And on the west side of Vegas.
It would be so... You could look this up in 5 minutes. It would have taken literal 5 minutes, and they couldn't be asked.
Well, this sort of brings us back to what Kat was talking earlier about kind of pop culture memory. You know, when I say Egypt, what's the first thing you think of? It's either mummies or pyramids.
Speak for yourself, but then Kemetic pagan. I'll be
The
quiet.
general population,
Yeah,
not Sky
okay.
Blaze who
Not
hoards weapons
weirdos
in
like
her closet.
me. Not weirdos like me.
So I you know, but I mean I can kind of see both sides in that, because like, you know, again, Egypt, pyramids, there must be pyramids, but on the other hand, we've already established this is in Egypt. We've got pharaohs, we got mummies, we've got scarabs. You know, pyramids at this point are just kind of, you know,
Overkill.
extraneous.
Yeah.
So, although,
But isn't it what people want to see? Isn't that part of our fascination with Egypt? Because if we, you know, like went to modern day Egypt, we wouldn't want to go to modern day Egypt, but ancient Egypt that we think is just so interesting and mysterious, pyramids are what we think of.
where there's a chance we may come home with a curse, or in
Yes.
Brian's case, may already have done.
You dick.
Speaking of the curse, only further it makes it so. These are our own personal curses, guys. We have a podcast curse, not a mummy curse.
Speak for yourself.
So the bugbear that I have as far as accuracy versus storytelling is with military type stuff, particularly in like the World War II era, because I have like just a fascination with that time period and with those battles. So I remember seeing there was a World War II film. I can't remember what it was, but there was a scene in the film where a couple of the German soldiers are running around with AK-47s. Now, yes, there was an assault rifle that was designed by the Germans in those days that was actually the inspiration for the design of the AK-47, but it wasn't a fucking AK-47 with the wooden furniture, and it completely killed the whole thing for me. And I'm just like, you know, if you had to give them some kind of, you know, automatic weapon for the scene, you know, they had the MP40. You didn't need to try and go for some obscure rifle that very few people know about anyway, and then fudge it by using fucking AK-47s.
You and my dad. See, I can't even watch war movies because my whole childhood was my dad watching war movies and then pointing out every military inaccuracy. It didn't even have to be a war movie, just any movie that involves the military. Like, you just watch the first Transformers and my dad will be pointing out that kind of plane can't lift off of that kind of aircraft carrier. And that carrier in that scene is not the same kind of carrier as the one in the next scene. And it's like, wow, okay, well, I was gonna enjoy this, and then you started talking.
If your dad ever meets Michael Bay, please get it on tape, because I'm pretty sure that he will, like, just beat the ever-living shit out of
He
him.
probably would.
And don't
See,
ever show your dad Battleship.
No, my dad went out and saw Battleship, like, on purpose.
Wow.
And I'm like, why,
Who did he
Dad?
ki-
It's
who
just
did-
gonna
who
make
did
you
he kill?
mad.
Who did he kill in the aftermath?
I'm not sure. Probably Liam Neeson's career.
Good.
Oh.
Oh my god.
Now,
So, speaking of this sort of thing, I did once. I can't remember for the life of me what film it was, But I was watching a movie that had somebody trying to shut down a nuclear reactor with a nuclear physicist.
Was it
This-
Godzilla?
I can't remember. It might have been. I honestly can't remember. But there was a scene. The only bit I clearly remember about him saying is this bit where they were like, "It's going critical," and this nuclear physicist was like, "Good. That's how nuclear reactors are powered." Because all going critical in a nuclear reactor means is that it's now the reaction's working and it's self-sustaining. That's all going critical means. If something has gone horribly wrong, then it's called prompt critical, an entirely different thing.
I think that's every movie that's ever had a nuclear accident or whatever. Like, so you've just combined them all into one sentence. Because when you said that, like, it's going critical, I was like, I know 700 movies that has that line in it. I don't know which one she's talking about.
Well, I think in that case they're confusing nuclear terminology with medical terminology. Because if you're in a hospital and you're told that something in you is going critical, then that means that you need to fill out your last will and testament promptly, quickly, because you're about to have a chat with the nice man in the black robe and the scythe.
Hey, that is a perfect segue to talk about the inaccuracies of fucking being shot in every goddamn movie.
Oh God!
Oh
Have
my
you noticed
god!
Everybody falls over.
It's either you fall over and you're just dead, or you're John McClane and you're shot 1,000 times, and you're walking around barefoot having stepped on glass, and you're fine. Like, there is no in between. It's either you're shot and you're dead, or you're not immediately dead because you get a really powerful death scene from something you wouldn't die from, or you're fucking John McClane. Like, there is no accuracy with guns at all.
No.
Well, to be fair though, John McClane never got shot in the first Die Hard. Yes, he did walk on broken glass, but I don't think he ever got shot. He got his ass beat a couple times.
It is possible to take a shot to the chest and still keep walking. My great uncle is living proof of this. But
So any number of people coming back from wars would tell you that.
yeah, it's and that's actually where he got shot. He got shot in Korea. But another thing that kind of, I think this is a case of, again, it's whatever is most dramatic for that point. The thing that kind of gets me, kind of raises my eyebrows, is ever since Half-Life 2, ragdoll physics has been, this big thing. And I always kind of laugh when, you shoot somebody with a handgun and they go flying across the room. It's like, okay, yeah, 45 caliber revolver. Yeah, if you get shot with that, you're not going to be smiling, but you're also not going to score a human touchdown with one either.
There's also the kind of holding the gun sideways.
No. Which does not...
Oh God! Do you know how many people I know who've actually done gun shooting of any description have gone off on one about that whole business?
Favorite story arc for the Punisher actually features a scene where the Punisher is going up against like a bunch of ghetto gangbanger drug dealers, and they're all shooting him, and they're all holding their guns sideways, and Frank is just standing there in the middle of the street, not taking cover whatsoever, and they're all missing him. And then he pulls out his rifle, guns down all of them except for one, who he walks up to, points his pistol at him, and goes, "They put the sights on top for a reason." Boom.
Yep.
But no, that just
also to do something about where the empty cartridges eject from.
Yeah, they
Like, if you
eject
hold
sideways.
it sideways with some kind of gun, you end up with like hot metal in your face. I'm sure that will be lovely.
Or if you're using a gun that ejects it from the top, you run the risk of the gun actually jamming, because the casing can't get out of the breach quick enough, out of the breach properly. Now there are some weapons that can be used and fired sideways, but if they are designed to do that, first off, I can't remember the proper terminology. The place where the casing comes out will be in a spot where it'll eject the casing out of the way, and they'll also have installed some kind of secondary sight system, because those kinds of weapons are designed to be used like when you're crawling around on the ground. You can see a couple of these in Metal Gear Solid 4. There's actually some of the assault rifles you can use will have that second sight system built onto the casing of the gun. So there are weapons that you can fire sideways, but they're very rare and designed for very specific purposes.
Well,
and you're probably not going to find one at your local Dick's Sporting Goods.
Well,
doesn't it look cool?
The thing though with I think the whole shooting that like I was watching a spaghetti western the other day, one of the old Django films, not the Quentin Tito.
More words we're making up tonight.
Not his Django, but one of the
Quintito.
original ones. Whatever. And that's just been something I think has been going on for decades. Because you watch the old spaghetti westerns, you shoot a guy a couple times, they go, "Ugh!" They hold themselves and they fall down dead. Or, like, if you're the main character, and I call this, it's always like the main character logic, you get hit with a Gatling gun and you're still alive. It's
because you have plot armor.
Yeah, it's plot. It's not for accuracy. I don't know. It's not really going for accuracy. It's definitely more story involved, and I think if you're engrossed in the story, you sort of accept it. But if it's not engrossed in the story, you see it way more obvious. You know that it's something is a little bit wrong. By the way, those old Django films are kind of terrible, but they are fun to watch.
One that makes me laugh is when you see people holding a revolver two-handed as they're holding an automatic with their offhand up on the side of the gun. Yeah, go watch that episode of Mythbusters where they tested that and just see what that would do to your fingers. Here's a hint, you won't have any anymore.
Oh my god.
That's also another thing, and this might change the subject a little bit, but I do feel like in the day and age, and I'm going to blame the internet, and the internet's going to get mad at me again, but we have so much more information now. Everyone's just a little bit smarter now, and if you're not that smart, you have Google. And I think the one thing that sort of bothers me, though, is that we do have science police, where no matter the film, good, bad, somewhere in the middle of the road, if there's an accuracy, someone's going to show up and talk about and tell you and all this different information. Crack.com, I'm kind of looking in your direction, and it sort of ruins the fun. Like, science fiction is fiction. It's in the title. So if I'm watching Flash Gordon, the original Flash Gordon, you know, obviously I'm not going to be really concerned about scientific accuracy of space travel or anything like that, because that movie's fucking weird. But if I do understand if there's something that takes place, like, let's go back to Gonzo's World War II. Let's say we're watching something like, this is a World War II movie based on real events in World War II, and suddenly the Nazis have mech suits. You kind of go, wait a second. What the fuck?
This is awesome. Oh, sorry, that's not what we go. That's not what we go.
I was playing a video game with that precise premise last night.
Well, let's not even talk about how the problem with mecha suits as a proposition in the first place.
Okay, but yes,
they are incredibly inefficient. So every kind of Gundam or like ever made, all wrong because they don't work. Like bipedal robots are incredibly difficult to build, really inefficient. They have a very high center of gravity, which means they fall over very easily.
But goddamn, don't they look cool?
Well, see, that's the problem, though. Everybody knows that the only way for a giant robot to work is if you get 5 mechanical lions, and then you form them into the giant robot.
You know, I'm gonna leap off of what Brian was saying about the science police. I actually love it when they go the opposite direction, where they try and explain how science would have to advance in order to make something like that plausible. And I'm actually going to recommend a couple of books that do precisely this, and I know Skyblaze is probably going to want to seek them out. But The Computers of Star Trek and The Metaphysics of Star Trek are both books that do this.
I've got computers.
Of course you do.
And it's at my parents' house at the moment because I don't have room for it on my bookshelves. But yeah, I've got it.
It's so full of other amazing books.
Yeah, but both of those are examples of the kind of books where they take something that's utterly fantastic and explain how human science would have to advance to make something like that plausible, or to make something like that possible. And I love that kind of shit because I'm a closet science geek. And
it's one of... Sorry, dude, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh no, go ahead.
It's one of the things I like about fandom is if when you get like fans in fan fiction or in like blog posts going, right, so this is a thing, and you would think it's not possible, but I have an explanation. And sometimes they're incredibly fascinating.
I was recently reading a theory about, this isn't sci-fi, it's fantasy, but how Game of Thrones can have uneven winters that have long years between them, and how like winters can last different periods of time, and what sort of orbit around what sort of orb you would have to have in order to have these kind of uneven cycles. And it was really interesting. And then you're sort of like, you have too much time on your hands. Nobody reads or watches Game of Thrones for any sort of scientific accuracy, but I love what you're doing.
And this is why we are fans, ladies and gentlemen.
I think the greatest paper that I read of that kind was, I don't remember exactly what the title was, but the basic premise of it was how to scientifically make a Pokeball possible without the law of conservation of mass making it the heaviest goddamn thing in the world to hold.
Well, there's also stuff like there's an explanation somewhere about why things like the Star Wars AT-STs and the AT-ATs, why they are designed that way.
Because they're designed to make no goddamn sense if you don't prove it otherwise.
Well, yeah, because they're really impractical design when you actually look at them. And then some people actually put together some explanations as to why they existed that way. And I was like, huh.
And then there are some things that we just don't care about the scientific inaccuracy. It's like, how are Warhammer Space Marines possible? Because awesome. That's why.
That's why we don't think too hard about Gundams, because you're like, I don't care. I want one. Like, I just want to go blow shit up in my own mech. I need this.
So that's all the time that we have really for Nerd of the Third Power this week. So, sound off in the comments about sort of where you draw the line on scientific accuracy versus storytelling, and we'd be interested to hear what's the breaking point for you. And, so that's all the time that we have for Nerd of the Third Power this week. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. And, as always, I'm Dr. Gonzo.
I'm the cat.
I'm Skyblaze.
And I'm Brian.
All right, we'll see you next week. Talk up, play us out.